All right, good morning as we continue our study of fractions today. There's a class activity. I'm actually not going to require you to do this, but if you feel like it would help, you can look at the next page and there will be some places where you're going to cut these out and you can put them in circles and kind of compare different fractions. So I'm not going to require that you do this part, but if you would like to and you feel like it would help you out, you're more than welcome to cut these out and use them on the next page. So the first thing is you are going to label each of the unit fractions. So you're just going to go through, and this would be, there are 4 parts. So you'd have 1/4 there, this is 1/4, this is 1/4, and this is 1/4. So label them each as unit fractions. Again, unit fractions have 1 as the numerator. So in this one there would be 1/6. So each of those is 1/6. And then this one is 1/8. Okay, so you would label all of those as 1/8 if you feel like you want to do that activity on the next page. Okay. As we get there then, so our next page is a couple pages over. So here is where you would actually use those, and then you can fit those pieces into these circles here, which will help you kind of compare some of the fractions. And it might actually help you on some of your assignment as well. So if you're struggling and you feel like you're not really super understanding some of the different concepts of it, this would definitely help. Okay. So that is part of it, but now yesterday we talked about comparing fractions that have the same numerator. Now we're going to compare fractions that have the same denominator. And no matter what we have, one of the things that I think makes things easier is thinking about what is half of something. So for example, if I had 2/3 and I'm trying to compare that to, let's say, 3/8. Now I know half of 3 is 1.5, or 1 would be 1.5. So anything greater than that, so this 2, I know that's more than half at least. So this one I know that 4 is half of 8, so 3/8 has to be less than half. Okay? So I like to think of it as, is it more or less than half? It at least gives me a starting point. If they're both more than half or both less than half, then we have to do a little bit further investigating. But this is a quick, easy way to say, well, that's more than half, that's less than half, so this one must be greater. Okay. All right. So record your work during the class activity. Don't worry about that. If you did some stuff up here that will help you here, you can use those because you'll break your circles into eighths, and you can use those for some of these. But as far as comparing fractions with the same denominator, if it has the same denominator, to me it's actually a little bit easier because the same denominator means it's cut into the same number of pieces, and then the higher the numerator is, the greater it is. Okay? So if you imagine you have the same size pizza cut into 8 pieces, another pizza cut into 8 pieces, would you have more if you had 7 of those pieces, or if you had 5 of those pieces? Okay, so if they're the same size pizza, they're cut into the same size slices, you'd obviously have more or a greater amount if you had 7 versus if you had 5. So 7/8 would be greater than 5/8, and 5/6 would be greater than 3/6. And then explain how to compare two fractions that have the same denominator. I just kind of explained that, so try and put that in your own words there. All right, so now number 4 and 5. We are comparing ones with different denominators and the same numerator again. So now, again, when they have different denominators but the same numerator, we go with the lower denominator, right? So they're cut into smaller pieces. That means that 3/4 would be greater than 3/8. Okay, again, if it helps you, half of 4 is 2. So we know that 3/4 is at least more than half of whatever object we have. And then half of 8 is 4. So that would have to be 4/8 to even be half, meaning it's less than half. And 3/4 is more than half of something. All right, so 5/8 and 5/6. Again, same numerator, means we go with the smaller denominator. Okay? It's cut into larger pieces. So 5/8 is less than 5/6. And then explain how to compare two fractions that have the same numerator. Okay, so we just kind of went over that. All right, next one is our friend the puzzled penguin. Oh, before we get to that, I guess, there's a little bit of practice on greater than less than. So we'll go through these fairly quickly. But 2 over 2, that's equal to 1. So if the numerator and denominator are the same, that would make it pretty easy. That's equal to 1, and 2/3 is less than 1. Because 3/3 it would have to be 1. So 2 over 2 is greater than 2/3. 1/3 and 5/3, again, if you have the same denominator, we go with the larger numerator. So this is actually greater than 1, 5/3 is. So 1/3 is less than 5/3. Again, same numerator, so we are going to go with the higher, same numerator, so we're going to go with the lower denominator. So again, this is more than 1. This is about half of 1. So 3/2 would be greater than 3/6. Same denominator, which means that we go with the larger numerator. So 5/6 would be greater than 4/6. Again, that's the one where you have the same size pizza, cut them both into 6 pieces. Which one would you want, or which one would you have greater of? Well, 5 pieces would be greater than 4 pieces. Same one here, 5/8 and 3/8, so 5/8 would be greater than 3/8. Different denominators, but same numerator. So we're going to go with the lower denominator there. So this would actually be over 2. This would just be a little bit over 1. 7/8 and 3/8. So same denominator, go with the larger numerator. So 7/8 is greater than 3/8. And then 9/4 and 9/8. Again, if you have the same numerator, you're going to go with the smaller denominator. So again, 9/4 is actually a little bit over 2. Think of it as 8 divided by 4 would be 2, and then you'd still have 1 left over, where 9/8 would be 1 whole with only 1 left over. Okay? So that is 7 through 14 there. And now our puzzle penguin. So what is the error? Today my teacher asked me to compare 3/7 and 3/9. I wrote 3/7 equals 3/9. My thinking is that both fractions have 3 unit fractions, so they must be equal. Is my work correct? If not, please correct my work and tell me what I did wrong. How do you know my answer is wrong? Your friend of the puzzle penguin. So write an answer to that. I'll let him know that he is incorrect and why he is incorrect. So talk about the size of the pieces that it's cut into. And then the last one, explain how comparing 2 fractions with the same denominator is different from comparing 2 fractions with the same numerator. So I would advise, think about comparing 3/4 and, so let's say same denominator, 1/4. Okay. And then think about comparing the same numerator, so we can do 3/4 to 3/8. So think about it that way. Have those, if you write those down, I think it's easier to maybe visualize why one is greater than the other, and then explain your thinking on the check your understanding, and you can get to work on your math.